the method that you use to solve that problem, we often rely on things like theories and methods. There are some limitations that comes with each of these approaches, and I think a lot of times we don't quite appreciate the limitations. For instance, if you use a theory, an established theory, like the theory of planned behavior or something, you have to understand that you put yourself in a box, and you have very few ways out of that box. It's kind of like you're sitting in a cardboard box that has 3 windows with 3 labels, and that is the world that you see. You miss out on everything else. And so theories puts blinders on people. So you have to understand and appreciate that. And so using 1 or 2 theories could actually be limiting. By the same token, if you use, let's say, a method like a survey research method, well, that could also be limiting. Perhaps your problem is better solved by a grounded theory approach or by a different method. But going down the line of a survey method could actually backfire. So think carefully about your choice of theories and your choice of methods, because they could be severely limiting to studying the problem. Again, if you don't have a very good articulation of the problem, your choice of methods and your choice of theories could be misleading. And finally, at the end of the day, when a reader is reading your article, they're asking the question, what have you learned from your research? What is new and what is insightful? In other words, what is the contribution of your work? And you have to be able to summarize that contribution in an insightful manner, not necessarily just saying, well, 2 is better than 1. That's kind of not very insightful, I know that, right? Or saying that security is important, well, I know that too. But you have to kind of provide some insights that readers don't quite know. And I think that is very challenging. And so a lot of journals reject articles because of insufficient contributions, because there's nothing new, nothing insightful. And so in order to sort of figure out what is insightful about the research problem, you have to go back to step 1 and think about the problem. Why is this a problem in the first place? What are we missing about this problem? Are there any solutions to the problem? If you have some ideas about the solutions, maybe you can design a research method that tests the efficacy of the solution. And then maybe present a set of findings that demonstrate when the solutions work, when they do not work. And that would be a very interesting research paper for publication purposes. So those are 3 things I would like to end with.
Okay. Thanks a lot. I'll start with the other AOs as well, Alexandre.
Okay. So I'll probably talk a little bit about things that we noticed in our panel. We had 3 very interesting papers, but 2 of them were framed from the title already with a lot of focus on the objects. And I was saying we should always try to make a difference between our objective and our object. The object is there to give us a way of telling our story and providing us with a good story. But the objective is really what interests most of the people that are our potential readers. Readers will be interested in generalization even when we are discussing one single case. We know that our method doesn't allow in many cases when we're just studying a case that we generalize our results, but our readers, the readers of the journals that we are representing here, their intent is always thinking of how that case can help me understand better a situation that I am going through. So we as researchers and we as academics are always thinking about generalization. And when you have a title that already says, that is so focused on the object that people do not see that there is a possibility of at least generalizing from future studies, but from what is said in that study, we probably lose interest. So again, I agree and I understand that we have to go through these 3 phases, and it's very important that we think of a problem that is interesting to others, that we can solve with the methods that we chose. And even if the method doesn't allow for generalization at the end, at least it helps other researchers think, well, that may also be my case here, and that's a line of investigation that I'm interested in, and so I will read this paper. So I'd say the message for us would be, do not mix objective and object of your research.
Right.
there's nothing that either of my fellow facilitators said that did not come up also to some extent in our group. But I think the theme that ran through our group pertained largely to design, or at least the theme that I heard. And I would like to make three, since everybody's making 3 points, I'd like to add being the third one, make 3 points. The first is, design and theory are not mutually exclusive. A good design can produce theory about how good design is made, in other words, about process, and it can produce theory about elements that are helpful to contain in a particular category of artifact. So it's worth keeping in mind that these are not mutually exclusive dichotomous. We focused a lot on the purpose of the artifact. And this goes to my third point, and I'll come back to the second in a second. At least two, the first one's already fading in my memory because I'm getting old, but at least two of the three, in fact all three, used multiple methods and multiple approaches, including some design, including other things. And I think one of the lessons was that each of the methods contributed some different element to the whole study. And making clear why that method was chosen to produce that element and how the elements then fit together is hard for a reader to put together without your help, without you pre-doing that, if that's your area. And so the purpose of the artifact is also the purpose of the intermediate. It's like in manufacturing. You have an engine as a part before it's part of the car, and the engine is also an artifact as well as the car at the end. And it also has emergent properties. So what's the purpose of each partially constructed outcome that you have as you move along in this? There's a few papers written recently about multi-methods, and I fear that they're going to become religious in the sense that one must follow them step by step rather than somebody invented those, I can invent what I need to. So I think the rationale for the particular combination of methods, how they're used, what the interim steps are, and the suggestion that there's other possibilities that you chose not to do can also create a lot of value. So these are my observations. I don't know if Jared also asked Andy was observing our group to think through and see if he came up with another thought or two on this.
Yeah, I was an interloper in the sense that I just invited myself here this morning. What a different view. I love the way that Fred's mind works because whatever we were talking about, he was on top of it straight away. I had a slightly different reaction. And I think from Kirsten's paper right at the beginning, I found myself wondering again, what is the value of research in the real world? Because there's a question of research outputs which may be academically rigorous and therefore publishable. But I think in each of the three cases of the papers that we discussed, there's huge potential benefit to the real world. Kirsten starts explaining that she's looking at ERP, because the reaction is there's a huge literature about ERP. What do you think you're going to achieve? Well, she's going to achieve something very useful, which is going to contribute to the way we manage the people in work who are affected by ERP. Sergey is in a slightly... Where are you, Sergey? Yeah, you're in a different world to me. As I say, I'm just an engineer, man, you know. But he's looking at investment strategies and how you decide. Across all of that, the scope of what you're trying to do is huge, it seemed to me, but you've got a grip on it. At the end of the day, the real world consequence of your work, hopefully, will be better investments, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. And then Marty's looking at how disadvantaged people in South Africa may be advantaged by. And it comes right back to the earlier comment about getting stuck in the middle, because I think your project is somewhat stuck in the middle. And the value in your work will come when you can show how it is going to make, or it is already making a difference in the real world. So that's my single comment. Let's remember we're living in a real world, and we'll be valued better if we do make a proper contribution. Good talk, Doctor. Thank you.
Okay. Being the last one, actually, I have not much to say. Anyway, I apologize. To a very large extent, I think I will repeat what my fellow have said. But again, it highlight the importance of those issues. In my group, I have 3 papers, one from Chile, one from Brazil, and one from Canada. Actually, by just looking at these 3 papers, I do see the difference in terms of research interest or research questions I have. The one from Chile and the one from Brazil, actually, they really go into the issues in their own countries. And very deep, actually. One is about the electronic participation offered by Chile government, and another one is about the digital divide index, again, about in Brazil. And the third one actually is from Canada, and that one is more core and more technical one that we see about the mobile social media research. Of all 3, actually, again, I do see that actually there are 2 points that I would like to highlight. Number one is reflect to what my fellow mentors have talked about, the contribution and the generalization. Especially, for example, the things about electronic participation offered by Chile government and the digital device in Brazil. Both of them actually go very deep about their own countries. But the question is, actually for me, from somebody from Hong Kong, why am I interested in some issues in Brazil or in Chile, especially when we are talking about paper published in an international journal. That is related to the contribution, to what extent you contribute to the literature, or about object. Actually, once you go too deep then into that one, then how about the generalization? That is something that you somehow need to balance the two. It's good to actually do something for your own country, but again, people have to ask the question actually how somebody from other countries will also get benefit from your study. Say, for example, how Hong Kong can benefit from that paper, from that study, and things like that. Now, that is the first point. The second point is about, again, related to earlier on, mentioned about the research questions and the framing of the studies. Somehow, I think it happens quite often, actually. We need to do is, at the end, actually, we have to ask ourselves whether the research findings from the studies can actually answer the research questions. And it happens quite often, actually. You have framed the study, you have come with research questions, but along the way, when you have the design of the method and blah, 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 at the end, the research findings may not be able to answer the research questions that you have in the first place. And then that is something very important we have to bear in mind. Make sure that at the end, when you have the research findings, ask yourself whether the findings can answer your research question. I think that is a very critical thing. And it happens quite often, I would say. That's my 2 cents contribution.
Any other reflections? For those of you who participated in the groups, do you have 1 or 2 reflections from your point of view?
I think everybody probably can relate. I think there's a difference between doing your research and publishing it, so you got to keep in mind what's publishing.
Write a good story.
Go ahead.
I also say that we have the honor to have some very highly experienced scholars that can give us the feedback, and other people who can, at the first view of the research, can immediately see the weak points, and if you are able to address them, you have the opportunity to get very, very high quality feedback. So that's very important, because you can see the path that you can go through here, because sometimes your presentation has a little flaws or problems or missing parts that are critical from some other point of view. So I think it was very, very, in our table we got, we're very honored to have Patrick that give us the feedback.
Actually, I do have a question or a suggestion. I don't know how it can be implemented. Can this kind of workshop for the papers that we have, say for example today, actually, in some way that it can be carried out, so that sometime later actually we can look at the papers again and give comments again, rather than kind of once more actually. So they presented it, but we gave some comment and that's it.
Come to Ningbo, right?
No, but I can see what you're saying, and it's something we can try to facilitate, and maybe drive it towards publication.
Yeah.
Any other feedback? Just
I do. My first experience here. So first of all, I think it's very important. I'm studying collaborative sharing economy. So for me, this is an example of how sharing is very important. For me, the difference was understanding the way you guys thinking help us to redesign because it is more a solitary exercise. You're putting your ideas here and seeing how you analyze us, give us our feedback, how should we rethink about it. So that was very good feedback from our session.
okay. No, I think this is great, and the idea that Patrick has is something, if we talk about sharing and developing, is there a way, and I'm sure in information systems, which we all are supposed to be in, there is a way that we could find, some mechanism to give input. I mean, apart from when we get it at the journal, for example, and then, it goes through that other process that sometimes is not very nice for some people. Maybe we can help, with the development of some of these ideas getting to that stage, so that when it gets to the journal, there's at least a good opportunity for just a revise and resubmit kind of thing, one round or the most two rounds, right? That would be good.
One very quick thing that also appeared in our panel, part of the story is sometimes in the writer's head. And when the story is shared the first time with other people sometimes don't understand it. And when the author has the opportunity of bringing whatever is in his or her head to a table, it makes it much clearer for everyone. So some of the papers there needed to be complemented with information that was still in the researcher's mind. One way of trying to solve this, at least to some stage, is, get your paper read by your colleagues, by someone else before you submit. That will probably show that there is already something that can be done at that stage, and that will make it much easier when the paper gets to a conference or to a journal in a later stage.
Thanks a lot. We're told that lunch is there, but this is food as well.
Food for thought.
So the conversation can be had during the journal editors panel. Discussion will be brought up to carry over today.
Okay, so we've just fed our head, and now we're supposed to feed our bodies. So, thank you so much for participating in this part of the program.
Lunch, head out to the right, down the middle, down the corridor, past the washrooms.
Okay.
Thank you.
Will you come back here after lunch?
After lunch, the panel will be held in P307, straight down the corridor.
Okay, yes.